Hello, I'm Shaun of Not a Yes Man's Economics, and welcome to Lockdown London. Subject I want to look at today is the issue of cash, money, banknotes, to some extent coins as well. Some countries they have particular value. Not so much in my home country actually, although we do go as high as a £2 coin these days. Why am I looking at this subject? Well, there's various different perspectives you can look at it. One of them is the spread in negative interest rates is putting the issue of cash under pressure. Why? Establishments don't like cash at a time like that. And so, because why? Well, there's no interest rate on it. So if you try and make people in, say, the bank have -1%, -2%, people will then want cash. Let me, before I get into the detail, just knock one thing on its head, because people talk of QE, a quantitative easing, as printing money, and it gives the implication that there's more cash from that, which there's not, because these days that's electronic. And whilst there's more liquidity, that's true. It's not true in terms of cash. However, in spite of the pressure, and there's been quite a lot from establishments to squeeze cash out, some of the numbers have been rising. If I start with the pressure against it, for example, the euro area scrapped, or is doing its best rather, to take out the €500 note. So there's no new ones, and it's fading away a bit. Why? Well, they claim it's because of illegality, and I'm sure that some's true. Let's say if you're money laundering, a larger size note makes it easier. But of course, it's also true on the other side of the coin. We see lots of examples of bank crime, don't we? So they tend to forget that. If we come back to the situation of the numbers and look at my home country, the UK, it is true that in terms of transactions, it's being used less. So people are using electronic money more, so bank cards and so on. For example, in the current pandemic, the actual amount changed from £30 to 45 as a limit that you can just immediately debit. So there's a switch. However, on the undercut to that, in the UK system over the past 10 years, the amount in circulation has gone up to 70 billion. So you can see there's been quite a rise, because that's a doubling over the last decade. If we look at the United States, not quite the same amount, but if we look back to 2010, there were $942 billion in circulation. As of this March, there was 1,745 billion. So about an 83% rise, quite a bit more. And that's against the stereotype of what we're seeing of things going towards electronic money. So people want money, but are using it for other purposes. If we switch to Sweden, that's an example of the reverse situation, because the amount of money there has dropped. A decade ago, it was a bit over 100 billion krona. Now, it was 63 billion last year. Now, except there's a little counterpoint to that if we look at it, which goes as follows. Whilst it had been falling, it's now rising again. Nowhere near back to where it was. But even in Sweden, which is, if you like, the sort of peak leader of the pack, however you want to put it, for electronic money, we see that there's been a little rise in demand. Just to give you an example of in Sweden as to how much they've switched to electronic money, just simply paying a smartphone is exactly the same as the amount paid for by cash last year. So as you can see, they've switched a lot. But here's a thing, and here's my final thought I'll leave you with. The Swedes have had an opportunity to go back to negative interest rates, and they've avoided it. So I think it may well be that actually, whilst it might not feel like it in the pandemic, cash may be here to stay. Thank you.